Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Smith in the Black Quant VTF here, T3 Live, and we've got. I'm going to be out of town not this week, but the following week. So there's going to be a lot of information in here that you can go back and reference because there's a lot of things that can happen. There's low VIX, there's inside weeks in the SPY. So as you'll see, there's a lot of things you're going to be able to go back and reference to for a while. But let's get to it. Obviously, S&P doing nothing, and inside week. And so what this means is, finally, we got an equilibrium formed here, so we haven't picked a direction for August. So a simultaneous break is ideally what we want, and normally that would be either upside or downside, but usually it starts at the beginning of the month. So we've had earnings season, and the broader average is not determining what they want to do, right, as far as an equilibrium break. So we would prefer to get a simultaneous break, either up or down, have them all start going. More often than not, some go up, some go down, and that's how we'll have to play it. But SPY inside week, so either side of that we're going to want to know about, and then stay out to not rev strat. But that's pretty much it because we started off the month, and obviously the month doing nothing, and the daily here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days within this bar. So this bar is not only is this the inside week in here, but this bar, we need to get out of that one way or the other and stay out. QQQ, the same here, and you can see this going like that. Weekly inside week, so far they have not picked a direction. If we take a look at Apple, Apple just gaps up on earnings, so nothing new here. Right, no actual signals here. We just want to see somewhat of a shooter to see if it comes in, fills the gap, but nothing new on that. And so it was something like that had earnings last week. What you're seeing is pop up, and then either it goes into the highs or you go in inside week. So that's pretty much the deal there. If we go to small caps, we've had a slight divergence when we go small caps and Dow Jones. So small caps did go weekly shooter back in, but as you can see in the month, still inside month and real tight ranges. But as you can see, it opened on the highs of the month and backed off, and it's going to start off as an inside day here. So at least we have some weakness there. You can still see higher lows up into this stuff as of right now and starting off as inside day. If we go to XIV and VXX and all them kind of funners here, inside week there. So if we're going to get volatility, maybe. Now we've got the inside weeks to try and see if they spook them or more of the same. TLT here. Had that first month down, 6 months down here, the red, at least red on the opening close. Now trying to come back up, and if we look at the TLT here, tried to go kicker pattern here. Weekly, nothing really new in here. 1, 2, 3 weeks inside of that, so we'll have to see how that plays out of there, but no actionable signals. Dow Jones Diamond still the powerhouse. Diamond's no inside week for you. Diamond's still going to the highs, and Diamond's going to start off the week as a momentum hammer right on the highs. Obviously, a little tough to trade something like this when it's moving up, and that's why we have to go after the stocks. But so far, discernibly outperforming is the Dow. If we go to Cat Tractor gaps up and spends all the time in there. So now if it holds that gap, you got a momentum hammer weekly to see if that can take this monthly stuff like this. It's big month triangles like these in the cat here. So you're through this, all right? Now you're just going to try and take a shots at that. So there you go, weekly momentum hammer. Cat. We go to Home Depot. Home Depot coming out of the ashes, stop them out here. And that daily triangle like this, boom, expando, and then gets back in. So we're looking to potentially go off after all this stuff. The problem would be no new actionable signals in there, so we can look for the shorter term ones. If we go to IBM, still pig, but you got your inside week. So we'll see how that inside week plays out. IBM. Intel. So Intel, you can see this weekly came up, bottom of the triangle, comes back up in here to try and take this stuff out. So as far as tech is concerned, with the Intel, comes up in here. Now it's a 2-bar pattern, which would be also a rev strat to the upside. You're just a lot of momentum going straight into the highs here. So just one of the things, if they're going to keep rotating into Dow and tech that's not on the highs, we can pay attention to that. So Johnny Johnson. Johnny John is going to start off his inside week here as well. Here and all this kind of stuff, these inside weeks in the Dow are certainly things to watch if they're going to keep propelling that thing higher. There's your Johnson inside week. McDonald's goes inside week after an outside week. So the fractal triangle, they're trying to get outside of there. So when you see something like this, one of the things we're going to watch, because we know that the volatility's dried up Just want to see how this triangle grows. You can see all this kind of stuff in here. Oop. All this kind of stuff in here. How does it get out of here? And if it goes down there, can it be weak enough to take that and then some? Or we're going to use this to try and go up into there. But inside weak for McDonald's, Triple M. Daily momentum hammer. And after the smackdown, they give it a smackdown. Now it's inside weak and trying to come back up. In no short order, they are very forgiving in this market, aren't they? All these inside bars here of this. And now coming up into the gap momentum hammer to try and continue. Merck goes inside weak. All right, we want to see how it can handle all this. Here, the lower lows and the higher highs, and now this outside bar, inside bar. How do you get outside of that? Like I said, some of this could play weeks to play out, so you can refer back to this certainly next weekend when I'm gone, even though I'm going to make a short video next weekend. Travelers. We know the insurance has been strong, so Travelers momentum hammer monthly and daily here. Go to UTEX. UTEX. So again, here you can see this. Outside month, inside month. All right, and so that outside tells us we got a triangle there. Here it is. Inside week. Need to get out of that. So you just want to be careful. Some of this stuff is tighter than the others, but on the daily you'll see this here. So what that means is we look for not only the weekly break, but continuation patterns up into here to try and take that stuff out, or failures back down to test stuff like that. If we go to Coke, you're going to see this triangle here. That's also inside week. Here, inside week after the outside week, and that's why it looks familiar. Pepsi, not in the Dow, but just watching the Coke and the Pepsi and the XLP stuff. That Pepsi does this, goes weekly, hammer counter shooter. So if the real move was this, then it'd stop them out, and then take the hammer out, and that's above 116.86. So because you can look at the XLP, and XLP goes inside week, and you'll see nightmare like Philip Morris inside week, but Altria, that's going to tough time not being multi-buyer pattern. Right, want to be careful of that. But General Mills coming up and trying to take the monthly hammer, SJM. Coming in a weekly inside momentum hammer to try and come back up on that stuff. Post. And Post you can see a lot stronger here. Coming through all this here. Voila. And voila. Now, the question is, can it get through that thing right there? And we'll take a look at it, but you got the big triangle there, SJM to keep an eye on. I mean, in Post. If we go to CHD coming in the other way. See, that takes that down. And you'll see. Come on. Monthly, inside month, and down right now, coming in on that stuff. So we'll see if that gets any worse over there, because Big Daddy Procter and Gamble in the Dow is chopping them up a bit here. If you go to the daily, you do have some shooters here, but boy, they're chopping them up in here. But we can keep an eye on that with XLP stuff. All right, well, let's get to the trannies. Okay, one more thing about the Qs. People are always worried about the Qs falling apart because of all them big Nazis running like they are. So one of the things you want to know here is you see this big monthly bar last month. Even if the NASDAQ Qs gets hit, it's a long way down to not being inside month. So better shot at the upside, but just be aware of that, because what that means is any new day, any new week, any new 60, it's still inside and can reverse back higher even if it starts to look like it's the end of the world. So just be aware of that. If we go back to the trannies and go to IYT here. Here is interesting too, because it was an outside month last month. Fractal triangle, and it tested it to the downside already, and now is back into it. So that's good. Potentially, that's a good thing. If we go to the weekly, here's the big weekly triangle, but here, if this weekly hammer tests those lows and comes back up, potentially this is just a garden variety pullback, and then we can go back up. So keeping an eye on that. You got Delta going weekly hammer here, and Delta did this on the monthly. Tested this big upper triangle in here, backs off, but now goes weekly hammer. JetBlue here, inside week. Some of these triangles are a little tight, but we can keep an eye on them like this. and like so. And there's your jet blue. Now, once again, you're going to watch stuff like this and be like, if it gets up into here, it's a good chance it could still be a 2-week pattern unless it takes that out. Fortunately, this triangle is pretty tight, so it's not that far. It certainly could do it. If we go to Alaska Air, also an inside week, and so far was an outside month, inside week, so it was stronger than the trannies. At least this part didn't take that out as yet, but we'll keep an eye on that inside week going forward. Southwest Air, outside month, now stayed inside strong too, and you'll see this inside week here. All right, now the problem here is going to be this big day here. How do you get out of that? And so that's first you form the inside week, which is this, the internal triangle. So once you get outside of that week, you really want to start taking a beat on this thing either way. If we go to Spirit Airlines, Spirit Airlines having a little bit more trouble here, and Spirit Airlines potentially could go out of this and use this as a measured move down into the downside. So here that sets up the weekly momentum shooting star, bigger triangle like this. Here, if they want to smack this thing some more. If we go to United Airlines also an inside week, so we can keep an eye on that, all that kind of fun stuff. If we go to FedEx, nothing new here in the FedEx. You can see that old weekly triangle here, and it just goes up and pulls back in a little, not inside, but what you do have here is this big outside day. So when you get outside of that, and that's going to look like this on a 60. Outside day fractal triangle, so you'd want to try and get through all that stuff or take a shot down into there. If we go to UPS on the comeback trail, and UPS, big outside week, now inside week, trying to test the old triangle here almost to the tick, so we can see if this is going to be strong enough to get outside of that outside bar. If we go to Avis is shooter counters hammer, so what that does here is gives you the lower level triangle like this, and then this hammer to try and get through that and go after all this stuff. If we go to Hertz backed off after a mighty run, so nothing really new there. So big mighty run gap down, so it's still some nice movement during the day. As far as day trading is concerned, there's no new actionable signals. If we go to the trucker, CHRW, daily triangle like this, and 2-bar inside week, so technically a rev strat because it opened and closed within that inside week, but 2 of these got to get outside of that, and you just saw that daily triangle, what that's looking like. Go to JB Hunt trucker, and JB Hunt hammer counter shooter on the weekly. So here you'll see this outside bar gets out of it, now back in. Now these 3 days are all inside of that range, so I'm going to see if there's any setups coming up through that. Oh yeah, also EXPD with the UPS and FedEx. Inside week, and this thing has barely flinched when the trannies came down. It's an inside week near the high, so definitely keep an eye on that. Rider Systems, hammer counter shooter right here. And so you can see the higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low, potential continuation triangle on the daily, like so. If we go to CNI Railroad, CNI, potential momentum shooter if they want to start taking some of these guys out, if they want to bring that down. So it's inside momentum shooter for CNI. That trigger below the shooter, and that's 78.65. If we go to Norfolk Southern weekly, slight lower low after these lower lows, and the slight higher high triangle like that. So that's potentially good. It's your monthly. Like I said, just slight and back in. You can see how it's holding that kind of stuff up in there. And on that weekly here, slight hammer to try and come through that. If we go to Rail, bam. Rail taking care of business, and they're really picking up some steam here. And what they did here on the monthly was sit around for 2 months, try that range, and now come powering through it like that. Two inside pattern rev strat to the upside above all that stuff. It's had a nice move in a short amount of time, but any continuation patterns this month, we're certainly going to know about that. Union Pack. And Union Pack, after last month's inside month and down, goes inside week to see if that's going to continue. Take out some slight lower lows like this and try and triangle back up through that inside week Union Pack. Kirby Kex. Kex goes hammer weak, and the thing about this, the way this outside bars have been walking down, it's series of triangles that look like these. Boom, 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 boom. So they've been slowly moving lower. So I want to see if it can come off of that this time and hold, try and come back up off that hammer back into that outside bar. Okay, if we go to the Utes, and Utes still hanging around. I see that monthly went, or that weekly went hammer up. So on the monthly, tis green and trying to move towards the highs. That's something. If you go to Dominion, Dominion is monthly hammer counters outside bar. That means getting back into a triangle. So certainly that on the list here. And also going to start off as daily momentum hammer. For any of you guys new listening to this, I teach this course on what all this stuff means. If you want to learn more about it, because it all makes sense and it all matters. All right, and then it's more handy dandy to use. Okay, Southern Company SO. Outside bar, that's fractal triangle, monthly hammer back into it. So potentially both of that, using this as the triangle magnitude. We look for setups with the full time frame continuity upside. Go to VNQ REITs, still doing nothing. All right, we got that monthly hammer, but in here, all that's doing nothing. Thing I might look here is letter O. Letter O's got this inside weak here to see if it's either going to drop back in on all this triangle stuff or try and continue higher out of that stuff. If we go to the XME, XME, start the month, starts off as an inside month here too, so still fairly tight range. What it has done on the daily is drop back in off of this triangle like so, and you're going to see this. Like this. So it came up through here, took its shot, taking all these guys out, and now just dropping back into here. So nowhere near taking that out nor that out as far as that's concerned. If we take a look at gold, and gold, here's that big daily triangle, and now we're stuck right back in the middle of it. And if you look at the monthly, in general, doing nothing. In general, doing nothing. GDX, still just tightening up, doing nothing. So that is what it is. So, but if you look at like GOLD, monthly, at least it's been holding up. So the question is hammer counter shooter on the daily right out the chute. Remember, there's only a daily setup, so if gold starts running on a Monday, we can certainly look at that. RGLD, and you can see how much better this has been performing, at least of recent. So the question is, what is this up into here? Does this continue if gold tanks, or have they really sucked them in? Because on the weekly or on the monthly, you're up into this business in here, right? So either it's off to the races up in here, or drop back and it's a long way down if gold starts puking. So, but gold right now doing nothing. So if we go to FCX, you just see this really tight triangle stuff down here. That's monthly, and then daily does this here. Bam, bam, bam. Remember this one? Bam, bam, bam. The triangle needed to grow. It did. Goes on support. So we can see how it gets out of there. It's inside weak. CLF also inside weak, but we'll see what that can produce. Nucor, steel. This is once again hammer counters outside weak. All right, so that's the fractal triangle. Need to take that out. You got KALU, Kaiser Aluminum, inside near the highs, and so we'll see what that can produce. If we go to financials. FAS, no problems there. FAS going towards the highs here on the weekly, albeit no actionable signals in XLF. Took out the inside day, albeit gapped up and then did nothing on Friday, but you can see these things still moving. KRE goes inside weak, so certainly you can watch some of those regional banks if they're all going to go. If you go to JP Morgan weekly, still, all this 5-week pattern out of that. Need to get outside of that. If we go to Bank of America, Bank of America started moving back, and it's now inside quarter and up again. Just need to get through this triangle. You see this is a little corrective activity, and then back into here to try and get through that stuff. Just no actionable signal outside of that quarterly signal. Citicorp, slow and steady winning the race here. Just no actionable signal is going to be the problem. But you can see here moving up. Bring it in, run it, bring it in, run it up. So just kind of gradually going up, but no new actionable signals there. Wells Fargo, these guys got a little bit different story. As Wells Fargo going inside month and down here. Still a 2-bar pattern, which means it still needs to get out of this big greener, but you certainly can look for setups to the downside should it stay below that inside month. If we go to BK, bam, going the other way, and BK is inside week right near the highs, the recent highs, I should say. FHN and the regional banks, there's your inside week there. Try and get out of there, and if you look at the monthly, it's got to get out of this. Inside month. PNC still on a move, and this would be nice to get KRE to go and keep her going, because PNC just keeps going towards these highs. So if we go to no new actual signal, our STT does go inside weak near the highs, and like Travelers and the Insurers and Progressive still going, Allstate, so all those guys still on the move. HIG, there's no new actionable signals, just they're the ones that are really going up. I've got a VESR, Dow Jones, I believe it goes to the highs, not inside weak, but still powering near the highs, and MA does go inside weak, so certainly you can keep an eye on that. Capital One, after the gap up, now goes inside weak here into this stuff. So the question is, you're going to come down, try and fill this gap, or even triangle them out like Sue, or try and hold and take shots up in there. We'll see on the inside weak breaks. Goldman Sachs. And the Goldman Sachs, remember this monthly here, was inside month, went up, and came back in for the potential rev strike. It took that out. So far, it is not doing that. It's trying to go for the rebreak. And on the weekly, you can see just stuck in here, but now trying to get back up through this stuff. And if you look at the daily, you'll pull this out. You'll see it gradually bring it in. Couldn't get through here, but still higher lows than that. Now coming up there, kicking pattern on Friday. Just no new actionable signal in there either, so that's a bit of a problem. If we go to the Earls, crude oil, and crude oil, if you go to UCO here, Doji, and so we had a strong move up, now Doji week. So the question is, this just a rest, and then we had a measured move of that? Does oil really come and take all this stuff out, or is this corrective activity of the greater down and just start dumping? So let's keep an eye on that, because we go XLE. XLE goes inside week. XOP does not. OIH does not. OIH goes tight inside day. Inside day here to start off, and so you can see how tight some of this stuff is and choppy in there. That's tough, and that's why when you see these oils, you got to break them down into which ones are going and which ones aren't. And so if we go to Exxon here, stuck in the mud. Look at this monthly. Ugh. Still can't get out of that thing, and it's getting worse. And so Exxon is inside weak to see if it can start taking a run through all this stuff up into there, or is it going to roll back down? But inside weak finally for Chevron, or for Exxon there. Chevron much stronger and gets back out to that triangle here and starts off as an inside day if there's going to be any more continuation. If we go to APA, nice daily triangle like this. And here's what I mean about the difference of them. You can see how this triangle is tight and then got bigger, and then you got a real nice move out of here. Now inside day here to either expand this or try and come all the way back up through that stuff, as opposed to like APC, right? You can see how tight this stuff. You can see how tight some of this stuff is, and so you want to be aware of that. And that's why a lot of people don't, only look at dailies and shorter term stuff. But when you start looking at longer term stuff, you can see this, because this is how we want to gauge the magnitude on how far this stuff's really going to go. If we get a CLR also doing that tight stuff too, but goes inside weak, so be aware of that. Here, Conoco inside weak, a hammer. No, not inside weak by a penny, but it goes momentum hammer and inside day to try and get through all that stuff. If we go to Concho, CXO, see what they did here. Brought it up and then boom, stop them out, just wail on all those weeklies. And so now you got an inside day. So even if it goes up, you get a multi-day pattern, but we want to see how it handles this bar here eventually. If we go to Devon Energy, another tight one comparatively, but it does go inside day here to try and get outside of this stuff. And so you'll see upper level triangles like this. See this? Lower lows and higher highs. I call that upper level because it's this thing is in the upper level of this thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bam. Just trying to get out of there. If we go to Fang moving around here, and boy, they got him good in here. Down and out, inside day, and not a tight range. But what that does do is it brings it back up to potential weekly momentum hammer through here. And one of the good things is when you get that wild action like this, sometimes people don't want to touch anything like that. We know how to trade it. So what that does mean is they can be real aggressive in this thing. And so once they get out of those ranges, hopefully they stay aggressive. Either way, if we go to GPOR, GPOR did what we said, talked about this triangle, and this triangle needed to grow, and it did, and then continuation inside day. So when I say continuation triangle, you're going to see something like this here. Bam, 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 inside day, and continue move like that. So now here's the bigger triangle, just starting off as inside day, down in there. Amarada Hess, tight, all right, tight, but here you go, weekly hammer, and we'll see if we can get outside of that thing. Also, if it starts moving, we want to pay attention to when it can break this inside month. Noble Energy, NBL, yeah. See, there was another triangle that needed to grow here. Came off of there, and then wham! So now it just goes inside day like the Concho there. So let's see how it handles that. If we go to NFX comes down inside day and back up. Once again, tighter triangle in here would be the first issue. Like I said, you can watch these for weeks because these things are going to get bigger. Weekly momentum hammer to try and come through that thing. So we'll see how that goes. If we go to OAS, there's another weekly hammer, little guy. You see this outside bar. It's 3 inside and then test the downside, come back in. That's good. If we can take that hammer out, you can get that triangle to grow, and that hammer is going to be at 806. So you need 807. OIS, this would technically be RevStrat week because it was shooter inside and then countered with hammer. So this goes RevStrat here above that. Just got a lot of distance to try and get up towards that, but hammer is 25.75 on that thing. If we go to Oxy, Oxy's still tight, but it does go weekly inside momentum hammer here to try and get outside of this stuff. So you can see how much tighter some of this stuff is here and trying to get through that. So maybe the underlier tells the story. PE did a concho when it started tanking here to take all that stuff out. And it also goes month and down here, but it goes inside day. Just trying to recover that. So we'll see how that can play out. PXD, PXD gets lumped but goes daily hammer. And the monthly blood red now coming back into all this stuff. And remember when we were watching all this, you see this outside bar here in the monthly triangle, lower low, higher high, lower lows, higher highs. Well, now you've taken all this stuff out. The question is going to be, and them, is it weak enough to go there or try and recover? You've got a daily hammer to start off. If it does take the hammer, the problem there is you're going to have a tough time not being an inside weak or multi-bar pattern in here, right? So you'd prefer this thing to set up to the puke side. If we go to SM Energy, and that's still real tight stuff too. And SM though has a chance for going inside month and down here if it wants to take that out. If we go to SU outside month last month to the upside, right, and hanging out towards the highs. And so unlike a lot of them, what SU did was inside weak and go off the bottom of the triangle and all the way through here. So that thing's still a powerhouse, but no new actionable signal. But that's the kind of divergence we want to keep an eye on. WLL inside weak, rotting away down there, little guy. But I think the underlier and everything will tell us. We'll watch that XLE inside weak break and all that kind of stuff. See if that's going to get that going at all. Slumberjay doing nothing. So here, if you go to the monthly, here just starts off, and the question is, what is this? And here's going to be weak enough to take that, or is it here, 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 and try and go back up? On the shorter term, you just got this little thing here is going to come puking through all that stuff or form some upper level triangle. No actionable signal there outside the OIH being inside day. You got a small hammer in the Halliburton, which is, like I said, it's tight, and Thing about Halliburton in the monthly, it would be momentum shooter to the downside if one starts taking all this stuff out, this bigger triangle, and start really puking, or just these guys. So we'll see how that goes. Helmrich Payne. Helmrich Payne, you can just see the bigger monthly triangle like that. Tightens down into a weekly here. We went shooter back into all this range. So tight triangle here, but it took that. And so what that looks like on a daily is this. Bam, bam, bam. Inside day. Now, you can start rocketing towards that or get worse. I'm going to find out. Go to NOV. And NOV, weekly, starts off as the hammer counter outside shooter. That's the triangles in and of themselves right there. And so if we go to the daily, you're going to see this. Here. This thing. That here. Now the question would be strong enough to start taking a shot up into that. So we'd be looking for actionable signals and full time frame continuity setups up through here. If we go to, and that's how you play the triangle. If you go to Tesoro, okay, Tesoro just going towards the highs here, at least recent highs. All right, it's a little tough to trade just because of the way it's been advancing, but now it's seemingly trying to accelerate, although we have no new actionable signals there. If we go to XRT retail, inside day for XRT, inside day. So the question is, what is this in here? You got the outside bar tested down there. Now, can we try and get out of this triangle? Because if we do, the monthly hammer on the monthlies. So if the death of retail has been greatly exaggerated, this is what it would look like. Monthly hammers there. So if we start off Walmart in Dow too, Walmart started off fast, but just goes into slight higher highs here. Shooter comes back off of this stuff, so we want to stay up there. Just a little garden variety pullback, so no actionable signal there in the Walmart, but we're going to see if that refirms up. We've got a Target. Target been moving up here, and Target doing this. Target going inside month to the upside, so long as it's above 56.75, and trying to come up on this weekly here. This triangle here. So all these bars still in here, but now starting to creep up and take a shot at it, and you got an inside month and up to do it. Costco, Costco, and Costco comes up, and oftentimes you'll see this. Takes out all these levels, and that's all she could do. Stop them out and then come right back in. So on the daily, nice move off the lows, but once it gets up and through all these guys, that was it. Outside fractal triangle expansion, then back down. So here, you get the higher highs and the lower lows, like so. But if you go to the weekly, you have a tough time not being an inside week, that's for sure. So be aware of that. If we go to AAP, shooter. So the question is this corrective activity, shooter, and then right back down and rip through all these guys. We'll see there. If we go to Best Buy, Best Buy still powering up, and Best Buy trying to do this. The monthly rev strat to the upside. Hammer, inside bar, 1, 2, 3, Bukamashu. That's 1, 2. Anyway, try and take all that stuff out so we can look for continuation patterns there. Once again, anytime you go to slight lower lows and then the higher highs, it's going to get the daily triangle looking like this. Bam, 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 bam. So you just want to get through there, but you got rev strat month to do it. Burlington Coat Factory. A little tight in this stuff, but that's how you get your inside month. So we watch this for this inside month break, and as of the weekly, you got the outside weak shooter triangle to try and get out of here. So certainly be aware below that here. If we go to Casey General Stores, Casey's, and you see this weekly triangle, and what that means, if you go back out, you got outside month countered by hammer month. So Casey's General Stores will be looking at setups above 108.83 all month. Burritos, CMG, yeah, and they got them good here. Stop them out, shooter, month, and then right back down through that, all the way back to the bottom of the triangle. So now you got inside weak here to see if that's bottom of the try or more measured move of death. If we go to the Dollar Tree, presently inside month and up, going to be a tough time getting through all that, but we'll be aware of full time frame continuity setups above 72.42 all month. GES, monthly Momo Hammer, and that's above 13.20, still going. like I said, if it's been greatly exaggerated, here they come. Gap stores. Gap stores. Last month was an outside month. This was an outside month, so you're coming back in on these triangles. And if you go to the weekly, here, inside week hammer. Once again, how can we see these triangles on a shorter term time frame? Like this. There is your big weekly triangle and inside week to try and see if we get any setups towards that. Jack in the box. Yeah. But Jack in the box does hammer off of this down in here. And Jack has been known to have some mighty moves in here. Now you take all these guys out and start to come back up using this little triangle support like in that. So Jack in the box, just keep an eye on that weekly hammer there. Signals above 93.80. Lowe's Corp with the Home Depot. And Lowe's Corp hasn't made the mighty move that Home Depot has. But if you look at the monthly, you'll see this. Monthly hammer. After coming back, filling the gap. Monthly hammer above 78.45 right there. Go to Lulu Bell. Lulu comes up. Side-by-side weekly momentum hammers are trying to go after this outside bar here. So that goes above 62.19. Ollie's stores. Ollie says, what me worry, baby. Inside, or momentum hammer weekly right on the highs. PLCE, Children's Place, after some mighty triangle amount down in there. One of the few, the inside month and uppers back up, PLCE. Phillips Van Heusen's still coming back too. And remember this monthly used to be a lot higher, 140 up in there. No new actionable signals, but it has, triangled them out and just got some momentum to try and take this stuff out. We could use some actionable signals there because it's like the RL. Here with the multi inside month pattern coming through that, and you can see this thing's been a lot higher too, 190, now it's 77, so certainly looking for more signals there. If we got an RH, that was nice last week in RH, the inside week and down puker, and what that does is also kicks in the monthly shooter here after the outside month. Shooter counters outside month here below 59.12. Still good. And Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply comes in here. Weekly, inside week momentum hammer. So the hopes is this is the bottom of the try. Use this momentum hammer as a measured move of this and take out that and that and that perhaps. We'll see how it goes. Okay, if we go to Bio, IBB. Not doing much, so it would be inside month. All right. The daily, see this hammer, not quite an inside bar, but if you go to like Labu, see this daily triangle really clearly. Like this. So be looking for setups to try and go take all this stuff out. Could use some more actionable signals, but they'll come along in XLV here, a little bit tighter in XLV weekly, inside week here. Yeah, by a few cents. So there's that. So if we go to GILD, GILD goes outside weak fractal triangle, bring them back in, and oftentimes you're going to see that when you got this monthly like this. It's rare just to go straight back up to there. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge, and here it is, and drop them back in. It opens on the highs of the month. And so when the daily pulls in like this, we'll just have to see anything new sets up. But for right now, outside weak, so fractal triangle there. BIIB goes inside weak, so still trying to get outside of all that stuff. Remember this lower series now finally takes this out. So the question is, what is this going to do? Can it take that weak and start coming up like this, or going to drop through it and start taking out some of that stuff? Inside weak, BIIB, Celgene. Inside week still hanging near the highs. Their new recent highs, I should say, and almost going to the highs, so still outperforming there. Celgene, that's also inside year and up. If we go to Amgen, inside week after the outside week, so you'd still need to get outside of all that stuff. The problem would be if it starts puking, would be lower high shooter to the downside. Go to Regeneron. Regeneron having a little bit more of a problem. It's on the old triangle support monthly, but it is month and down. Still 2-month pattern, though. It hasn't taken out those lows. And then you had this, the gap in reverse. here, and now you're inside of that. So the hopes would really be for the best move would be down, sideways, measured move off the inside day and really hit this thing. But we'll see. You can see this. Higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low. Ever seen one of those? There it is. Okay, if we go to ACAD. ACAD a little better here and going towards the recent highs. Now, ACAD on the monthly here, still trying to walk up into this business, but what you do have here on the weekly is this. Weekly little small momentum hammers. Just keep trying to creep up on this. If we go to blue thwarts the rev strat. It goes rev strat down, which it did complete. It wailed on all this stuff, but then it came back, and so it got a little help from the month, rev strat week, and month down. But then once it went into lower lows, it exhausted and tried to come back up. So you can have a tighter triangle like so. If it wants to try and take this stuff up, that's still a nice little move. If you can get something out of that, we'll see. Or inside month and down, repuke. If we go to Clovis. Remember on the monthly here, slight higher high now comes in, and the weekly, kicking pattern variation, but you got your higher high, lower low like this. Like so. Like so. Right, and now inside day on potentially this triangle. Let me see how that plays out. If we go to ENDP, and this thing smoked. Didn't look like much on the monthly, but it is month and down. It was in the video. But then when you go to the daily, it took a nice smackdown, and it is still month and down if the drugs don't work. If we go to ESPR. ESPR, remember this is one of those used to be somebody's. Way up on the monthly, now trying to creep its way back, and what you'll see in the weekly is this. Tight range, tight range, tight range. Come down, stop them all out, these guys, but not weak enough to do that. Now hammer to see if we can hammer right back through that range, and what that would look like is a fractal broadening formation like so. If we go to EW, weekly goes slight lower low, hammer counters the outside bar. That gives you a daily triangle like so. If we go to GWPH, spook them on here and come right back up. All right, and that daily, what that gives you is weekly momentum hammer to try and come through all this stuff. So momentum hammer above 118.11. ICPT, and that was quite the kicker week last week. Just totally pounding this thing. And the monthly, let's see if it takes all this stuff out. If what they were hoping didn't work, that's bad. Inside day, too, down in here. So it can either go triangle like this, try and go back up here, or measured move and just keep getting destroyed. If we go to IONS, another one of them here where you could go monthly, shooter down, but it came back up, which gives you weekly hammer counters outside bar. So either way on that thing. If we go to Jazz Farm, weekly hammer. Try to do this in the monthly. Monthly tried to rev strat down into here, but comes back up. So all this stuff still tight pattern, but you do have this weekly hammer, and then that gives you the daily triangle looking like this. Juno outside day. Gives you your fractal like this and the tighter stuff. But really what you want to look for here is the setups are going to come up on the inside month. See how much higher it's been. And now it's down in here. Now you got the inside month to see if you can get anything going out of it. If you go Kite is still trying to power higher, and Kite coming up for the weekly momentum hammer on the highs if she wants to just keep tearing them apart. If you go to Lily just going inside weak. Tighter triangle like that on the daily. Mylan, Puker, that was nice. Mylan last week, inside week to the downside, combined with the month. So it's still month and down as far as we know right now. So we can look for more continuation on that if we can get it. PBYI. PBYI, 1, 2, 3 days in here. So the question here, the reason that's good here is that it was real tight in here, real tight, and then finally tried to make it real even tighter, tried to go up here. Now, maybe we got to stop everybody out. Maybe you can start thinking about going back to the upside because they chopped them all up in here good. So we can keep an eye on that going forward. The thing is, for next week, you got a good chance going inside week if it does go up. But you can see how it took all this stuff out. The question is going to be weak enough to go test that, or was that enough to get rid of them? If we go to Parago, Parago still having all sorts of trouble. Been waiting for this used to be somebody or to be somebody, and it just does not. Inside month to the downside, Parago. SGen. SGen. Let's see here on the weekly. The monthly, it's monthly shooter down as long as it's below that. Outside week then took it down, so you can see here the higher highs, the lower lows. So the question is, what is this triangle here? Momentum of this, stop them out and keep going, or is this going to bottom out and try and come back up? Because you can have this daily triangle here to keep an eye on that for you. If we go to Teva, ow! Teva's puke. And that was a beaut because there was plenty of opportunity to get in on the downside here. So right now it's just hurting. No new actionable signals, just going into the lows. All right, if we go to XLK and the TAC. XLK goes inside weak up into here. So the question is, what is up in here? Like this. Here's your big weekly triangle. So either it's got to try and stay up here, get out of here and go to the highs, or drop back into this stuff, which either one was going to get our attention because you look at the daily. You see all this mess just like the other things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all inside of that thing. If you go to SMH, here a little bit worse. Not strong enough to be inside weak here, but this 3-week pattern, just got to figure out what that is. So we'll take it as it comes. Facebook goes inside week near the all-time highs. So we'll see what that can do. Facebook on the daily, obviously the earnings got it gapped up and now just kind of drifts a little bit here, but just slight lower low there. 2 inside day pattern to try and see if this is all they got as far as gap fillage, and then off to the races. Inside week Facebook, Amazon here, and when it gets this close, and I could say, rev strats and all that, this would be technically a rev strat to the upside, 2-bar pattern here, but it gets all that tight stuff. But if we take a look at some of this weekly stuff here, weekly shooter down. So the question is just taking these guys out and start moving back higher, or get worse. It gets into this outside weak into here. And the problema would be if it's weak enough to come down and take out the shooting star month. For right now, tight. 2-bar pattern would be rev strat to the upside, though, to start off the week daily. Netflix still inside gearing up. And Netflix does this 2-day inside pattern of that. And there's a lot of that going on, giving the inside week and the slight drift lower. 2-bar pattern. So either side of these 2 weeks is something we want to know about. It does have some triangle support, though, on the daily. See, like this here. Like so, comes right into there. So we'll see what gives there. If we go to Google, and Goog's stuck in here, and Goog weekly, you can see that outside week. All right, outside week, and then slight lower low. So we're trying to get back into that triangle, and that looks like this here. This thing here, but you're nowhere near taking out that nor that. So we'll see. If we go to Adobe. Adobe goes inside weak, so still maintaining up here to see if there's any more in the tank. If we go to ANET, an ANET weekly big outside bar to the upside on the earnings, and that's a good old he got you here. So it's just gapper up in there. So what it does do is, it's going to have to disseminate that gap just a touch. But as the month goes on, it is 1-bar rev strat to the upside. Inside month takes it down and bam, right in their face. If we go to CAVM semis. Different story here. Month and down, staying down below the momentum shooter. All right, and so certainly if they start hitting semis, that's something we want to know about. Now you can see this triangle here, a little tricky in here. See this? So the question is this thing stopping out the shorts, and then you can get the measured move of this down triangle, keep going on that monthly. So we'll see how that goes. If we go to CHKP, checkpoint, we've been watching this triangle for a while, and now you got this weekly here. Inside week, so just strong enough to be forgiven and come back up through this, or is it down sideways measured move puke? If we go to Cirrus Logic, and Cirrus was nice last week too. 1 bar Rev Strat weekly downside, and they got them good here. And the good thing about it wasn't a gap. You got all this stuff to go after it, which was real nice. So the question is, any follow through on that? We'll see, but certainly on the monthly, outside month to the downside and going to the lows of the month and back into this outside bar, which is always important. If we go to CTXS, and just a nice daily triangle to keep an eye on here, this thing here, inside day, and this stuff in here, bam, 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 to see if there's any setups to get up towards there. If we go to data went daily momentum hammer up, and what that does is it gives an inside month and up, trying to come back up into this thing. If we go to Corning, GLW, finally a little bring 'em in music on this thing, and it was good for a while. Then they bring it in hard, triangle them out, shooter back in here inside day to see if that gets any worse, because it sets up the weekly momentum shooter back into this triangle here. If this is just the warm up, stop them out measured move. If we go to Juniper, and Juniper big outside week, inside week. All right, so even if it does go back up, would be multi-bar pattern in here. So we'd prefer that to try and go measured move downside off that weekly through here. Stop them out and come repuking back into the lows, but we'll see how that sets up. If we go to KLAC, semi, all sorts of trouble over here. And once again, you can see that below the monthly momentum shooter here, below 90.69, and weekly got them good. Here, stop them out, puke right back down. So you're just into the lows now, so it's momentum on that. But that monthly still in force. We're going to log me in. Log me in. Interesting triangle here too. Inside week, like so. And so the question is, couldn't make the higher high of those guys. Just like that, so you can come like this, and the question is going to be weak enough to try and go back through all this stuff off that, and if so, the daily looks like this, and we can look for further setups to see if it's going to do that, come through all this stuff. That would be very nice. If we go to LRCX, some of that was nice last week, and you see this big daily triangle, lower low, higher high, lower low, higher high here. Now you're nowhere near either side, but last week was nice because you had this weekly shooter off the highs back into here. So we can look for continuation patterns to see if they're going to complete this thing out, or if it's going to start stalling out in here. If we go to Microchip, MCHP, and MCHP a little better, triangle them out to the downside and come through here. So that daily is going to look like this. Here would need to get outside of that stuff, and so once again you can see that as a outside bar in the week, fractal triangle. So we'd want to get outside of that outside bar and then stay out and look for additional actionable signals. If we go to Maxim sets up the Rev Strat weekly downside 2-bar pattern of that thing. So we'll see if that goes to the downside. Once again, like other things, you got that momentum shooter to the downside. If we go to Palo Alto, the question here, Palo Alto, is this still within this lower series? Here, 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 shooter, and then come down, finally fill the gap. We'll see how that plays out. You do have, starting off the week, and you see this gap up in here. In 2-day inside pattern after the outside pattern, so you want to see if they can come back puking towards the gappage. If we go to Priceline still power and inside weaker near the highs right here. Momentum hammer near the highs Priceline. If we go to PayPal just an inside weak near the highs. If we go to Qualcomm, tight inside weak. Remember this triangle here, bam, 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 bam. So the question is going to complete and try and take all that all the way out, or is it going to be a higher level here and go inside weak and up? Red Hat, chopping them up a bit in here on the weekly in here. So we'll just see. It's a daily pattern on Rev Strat 2-bar pattern to see if anything occurs. So a lot of these daily patterns we're really going to pay attention to if we get a simultaneous break, which means everything starts going. It doesn't mean we can't use the setups, but a lot of them are multi-days, and that's an issue as well. So if we go to TripAdvisor, is it time is the question for Trip. hammer on the momentum hammer daily to try and get through, or weekly to try and get through all this stuff. And if it does, once again, you get those two hammers here on the monthly to try and come into these outside bar. So Tripp's trying again, but we'll say Twitter outside month last month. And so on the weekly, you're going to see this bang, highs, higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low. And so daily, and you can keep an eye on something like this if you must, like so. If we go to Texas Instruments, Texan, see the big daily triangle like this. And the question is, what is this business in here? Well, that's an outside week, inside week to try and get out of this thing. If we go to VMW, still trying to come up with this lower series here, 1, 2, 3 on the monthlies, all this kind of stuff. Now you got an inside month after a corrective month takes all these guys out, right? And so weekly would look like this. So we can see how that handles once it's takes the inside month, something like this. Bam, 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 bam. If we go to Western Digi, a beaut of a daily triangle, if I do say so myself, and I do. Gorgeous. Bam, bam. This is what I talk. Triangle needs to grow, and then it does. Gap all the way down, stop them all out. How much further that's got's another story, but you can, if this triangle continues to grow and things get better, you can look for all this stuff back up the upside or continuation of the downside. Xilinx. And Xilinx weekly looked like it was totally going to die and really chopping up here, but now you got a hammer counters the outside shooter here. Took all these guys out, so the question is that can it hammer back up through this and start powering back through that range? We'll watch that above the hammer. Okay, if we go to some of the ag names, Intrepid Potash, little guy coming up, IPI. So you got MOO, Moo, market vectors, ags, and you can see this thing coming up after triangle them out here. So potash not doing much as yet, as you can see here in a monthly, but certainly once the other things start moving, you can see how we can get out of this thing. No actionable signal. Mosaic here, 1, 2, 3 inside days. So small clues that if this is the higher low than that, maybe you can get something out of that. We'll see. If we go to AGU, and you see this range like this and dinky doo to the downside to the upside, you know this is fractal triangle too. It's like this. Bam. Bam. And that outside weak right there to see if you can get outside of that. Okay, if we go to some home builders, ITB, just going near the highs, and XHB. Remember the Lowe's Corp and the Home Depot and the ITB. Just a few things to look at. Lennar here. Inside month, so we'll see how Lennar handles the inside month break. And USG, a little bit tricky here because potential inside month, but you do have the inside week here if they want to triangle them out and back up. And by that, I mean this. Higher highs, lower lows. If the triangle keeps getting bigger. Oops, there you go. The hopes would be inside week and come all the way back through that, but we'll have to see. All right, if we go to aerospace and defense, just going out near the highs, LMT right on the highs. You've got Triple L here going RevStrat weak 2-bar pattern here towards the highs. And just keep an eye on Naki going to weekly momentum hammer up and just going into the highs. It's a lot of momentum stuff, but it is what it is, and they're hanging around the highs. OA, another one hanging near the highs in OA. Is inside month and up, and the Raytheon just powering. So just a little momentum stuff there for you. All right, just a few more. AAOI in all sorts of trouble after this big month. What a difference a flip or a change in continuity makes, and you get a new month and you get this kind of debacle. So we can look. I know we're having trouble borrowing that in some places, but certainly this thing's in dire trouble here. So for the rest of the month, so long as that red month is around, we can look for setups to the downside. If you go to ABMD powerhouse and it's just like just look for some of this stuff that's just not backing off at all. Here Berkey B, and that's helping the FAS, and Berkey B just going towards the highs here too, and another momentum hammer. Remember, this is in the daily video here, and now here another one, Berkey B. Can watch the tires, SBAC, SBAC, Inside month to the upside. CCI comes big with a big monthly hammer to try and triangle them out, but good. Here, took him out, but good. Now trying to come up back through that hammer. And a Mercator goes inside weak. Go to CDW. CDW just starting off here with the monthly. Here, gets outside of the month. The question is going to get outside that inside month or come down for 1 bar. If we go to Charter, CHTR, and Charter backing off after a gap up. Now we can see if it's going to weak enough to come down into here. RevStrat day to start off if this is the corrective action. Inside day, countered with hammer, goes RevStrat above that. 386.01 would do it. CNC Centene. This weekly. Hammer back into an outside weak. CTRP. Just going to start the week off here as RevStrat day. DY either you can try and hold the triangle like this, right? It was lower level here, so moving slightly lower, but on the monthly here, 2 month inside pattern and going inside month and down below that, and then take a shot at the mother bar. If we go Emerson Electric, 1 bar RevStrat monthly to the upside already. And this thing doesn't usually move around very much, but all this chop and slop has gotten it. So I want to see if this RevStrat holds. So anything above that, we can look for shorter term signals. EMR. Honeywell, just powering higher. So Honeywell just on the industrial momentum list like the Dow Jones. IDXX. Finally getting the smackdown. Inside month and down IDXX. So we can look for further setups there. Also comes in like this. See if the inside day. Carl. IEP, Carl icon. Finally goes inside weaker. Let's see if there's anything there. Oh, buddy, JKS, remember the big power move up? Now it's side-by-side momentum hammers inside day. Let's see if there's any more in the tank for JKS Solar. MGA comes up on the weekly. Here, RevStrat inside. It's also hammer counter shooter, but this is inside, so it's RevStrat as well. That goes above 47.99, so 48er. TAL, just straight momentum here again. TAL education, and this thing is a powerhouse, as you can see. So straight momentum on that. Tenneco, it's a nice monthly here. I'm sorry, the daily triangle here. You can keep an eye on this. Like so. If there's any hope, you'd look for continuation patterns up through here. If you get to win results, and win results just gives you this daily triangle here to keep an eye on, like so. And the triangle will grow, but we'll take a look, and like so. And finally, Tesla. So Tesla, what Tesla did was get the earnings right when she needed them. RevStrat weak to the downside, right? Takes these guys out, which it did. And then earnings come out and power right back up. Still, at this point, is RevStrat year. So anytime there's full time frame counting to the upside, it's RevStrat year and full time frame counting to the upside, right? And for the month, when they hit it, it wasn't weak enough to take out the low. So it's still inside weak, but bright green on here and still trying to move up and go fractal triangle expansion on the daily out of here. So, yeah, we've got a lot to keep an eye on. We want to see if we can get some sort of simultaneous break to get some volatility in this market. Otherwise, we're going to continue to watch how the divergences play out. And, if they keep rotating into different sectors, we can start to grind higher again. First things first, when we watch them SPY in Q weeks and whichever way they break, and then they got to stay out. All right, that's going to do it for today. I'm Rob Smith, the Black Quant VTF here, T3 Live.